How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, Gandhi's statue at the University of Ghana must come down? What's really going on? Well, my royal family, I'm about to take y'all on a journey. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Gandhi, but I have heard statements about him. And the first time I ever heard any statements about Gandhi, it was actually from his wife. And his wife had shared basically that there were 3 in the marriage. Gandhi was bisexual. Yes, he was. And then the symbolism of Gandhi that I can recall as a child was like he was this peace-loving man, and that Martin Luther King adopted his non-violence approach, and that, throughout my life, Nelson Mandela also took this approach, and various leaders. Well, I remember being on Facebook about 5 years ago on somebody's live, and somebody had mentioned something about Gandhi, saying basically that he's a fraud and a phony. And I said, I'm not surprised, but he was not someone that I took any interest in. Well, I have a tendency over here on the True Royal family and True Royal do things a little bit different. Like I said, over here, you don't never know what you're going to get from me. I might bust out and start singing. You know what I'm saying? There is enough of us bloggers out here that's reporting basically the continuous isms that we deal with globally, but we mainly we focus over here naturally in America. So I said this would be a fitting time to expose this fraud. And the way I lined it up, these sequence of videos that I'm going to show in different various pictures, I did it deliberately lined it up in such a way. And trust and believe that last video, because I have 1 audio and 2 videos, that last video, that's going to be that bonus video. That's going to be that one that got all that juice, that syrup dripping, I bring it. So, let's go on this journey, my royal family. So we're going to start here on NPR. Gandhi is deeply revered, but his attitudes on race and sex are under scrutiny. Now, this is October 2nd, 2019. So it will explain why in Ghana, let's not lose sight that statues are coming down. So this is 6 minutes.
Mohandas Gandhi was born 150 years ago today. His civil disobedience campaign helped India free itself from British colonial rule, and civil rights leaders around the world ended up taking cues from Gandhi. But in 2019, some of his habits and his teachings are being scrutinized. NPR's Lauren Freyer has the story.
His mattress, his writing table, his footwear.
Usha Thakur runs a Gandhi museum in a Mumbai villa where the Mahatma, the great soul, stayed in the 1920s. Here is where he taught followers to spin their own fabric, and he launched Satyagraha, his movement for truth and nonviolent resistance. After Gandhi died and this house became a museum, it got a special visitor, Thakur recalls, a fellow freedom campaigner from the United States.
Martin Luther King was here, 1959. Of course, he was booked in a very good hotel, but he said, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm going to stay here.
To sleep here.
Yes, and they didn't know what to do.
Curators scrambled to haul 2 cots into Gandhi's bedroom for the civil rights leader and his wife, Coretta Scott King. Afterward, King announced he was adopting Gandhi's doctrine as his own.
Since being in India, I am more convinced than ever before that the method of nonviolent resistance is the most potent weapon available.
But now, 6 decades later, black Africans are rejecting Gandhi.
A statue of Mahatma Gandhi has been removed from a university campus in Ghana.
Activists in Ghana and Malawi are angry about his early writings. In 1903, when Gandhi was in South Africa, he wrote that white people there should be the predominating race. He also said black people are troublesome, very dirty, and live like animals.
Gandhi was a racist.
Ramachandra Guha is Gandhi's biographer.
He thought, as in his 20s, that Europeans were the most civilized, Indians were almost as civilized, and Africans were uncivilized. However, he outgrew his racism quite decisively, and for most of his life as a public figure, he was an anti-racist, talking for an end to discrimination of all kinds.
Including gender discrimination, Gandhi championed women in politics, but he was also obsessed with his own celibacy. In his late 70s, he slept naked with his grandniece when she was in her late teens. He said he wanted to test his willpower. Nowadays, we would call that abuse. Gandhi was all too human to be a saint, India's first prime minister famously said. But the Mahatma is treated as a saint here, as the father of the nation.
Oh, father of our nation, you made a sensation when you got us independence without any violence.
9-year-olds recite Gandhi rhymes at a poetry slam in Mumbai. Gandhi's face is on Indian currency. His portrait hangs in government offices.
So you can see the footprints now. This is exactly the spot where he was assassinated.
The garden in New Delhi where Gandhi was shot dead in January 1948, just months after India's independence, is now a memorial. Shailaja Gulapalli gives tours.
When people come here, they get highly emotional. Some of them have tears in their eyes and go back with a very heavy heart.
The man who shot Gandhi was a follower of Hindutva, Hindu nationalism. He wanted India to be a Hindu country, says Yogesh Kamdar, whose parents were freedom fighters alongside Gandhi.
The Hindutva type of ideology considered him to be an enemy because he was talking of secularism and not of Hinduism.
Gandhi's vision won out and India became a secular country. But some Hindu nationalists still don't accept that. And some extremists actually celebrate Gandhi's murder. Members of a far-right Hindu group shot and burned Gandhi's effigy on his death anniversary this year. In May, a parliamentary candidate from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mainstream party called Gandhi's assassin a patriot.
नाथूराम गौडसे देशभक्त थे, हैं और रहेंगे.
That shocked the country. Pragya Thakur was forced to apologize, but nevertheless won her election. She is an outlier, though. Most Indian politicians admire Gandhi. Kamdar, the son of Indian freedom fighters, says even those who don't still have to tread carefully.
Very grudgingly though, and maybe as a part of strategy, they have also adopted Gandhi as an icon. They had to rather. Otherwise, it is very difficult to survive politically.
Prime Minister Modi is headlining events for Gandhi's 150th birthday. The Mahatma's signature round spectacles are the logo for Modi's Clean India campaign, something Gandhi inspired. On weekends in Delhi, crowds pay their respects at the spot where Gandhi was cremated. Among them is Harsh Parekh, age 17. He and his friends debate the freedom leader's tactics.
When someone says, oh, he was great, there's always some criticism, no, he could have got his freedom way before and all that.
What Harsh and his friends are discussing is at the very heart of Gandhian philosophy, says biographer Guha.
His absolute insistence on nonviolence, which young men see as pussy-footed and weak-kneed and, dare I say it, feminine and hence not macho enough.
Gandhi's restraint can look naive to countries struggling to confront terrorism. So can some of his other ideas in today's booming, globalized India, like his Swadeshi movement, emphasizing small-scale local industries. A 76-year-old man sits with a spinning wheel at the other Gandhi memorial across town. There are so many across India.
Why do you come here? Why do you do this?
Because I'm very much impressed with Gandhi and his work. As a tribute to him, every Friday I come here.
Musadil Al-Gupta is a retired civil servant who escapes here for an hour a week to spin his own thread as Gandhi taught.
His principles are so strong, you may or may not accept it. But the day will come when this ये जो ताश का महल है ना,
The day will come when this palace of cards will fall, he says, and Gandhian principles will remain. Lauren Freyer, NPR News, New Delhi.
All right, my royal family, let me shut that all the way down because we're going to get much deeper into Gandhi. And so I made a point, I think, let me see, is it right? No, it's right here. I made a point of showing a statue that was vandalized in India, all right? I made a point of showing that. And I'm also going to make a point here too, my royal family. Take this, that audio down. So this first video I'm going to play, this woman here, she's from India. And she was very candid and spoke on how, things that were instilled in her, her being the same race as Gandhi. I will leave it right there and let her run with it.
Hi everyone, so today's video is, as you can see from the title, about Gandhi and his anti-blackness, his problematic persona, and what he's been perceived to be in mainstream media. And the problem is that the reason why I wanted to do this video, I've been sitting on it for a while, is that I also had to take a hard look at what my parents had taught me about Gandhi and his exalting within our community. And really and truly, my parents were two different religions. One was Sikh and one was Hindu. And neither one kind of forced their religion on me. And, I've married into a Muslim family. But again, we're all very open people. And, we have Catholics in our family. We kind of have a lot of the bases covered. And truthfully speaking, for Indian people, if you know anything about Indian people, that doesn't usually happen. But I think that gives me an interesting perspective. Along with being a first-generation kid in Canada, I also learned history in university here. So it didn't have a bias that many people in India have, including my mom and my dad when they went to school. And, it took and it required a lot of unpacking on my part about the racist ideas that are within our community. My community specifically being South Asian. And that's why I talk about anti-blackness, because one of the basic things in India, if you don't know about Indian people, and I've gotten a few subscribers with regards to my anti-blackness topics, is that in India we are very anti-black. Like one of the biggest selling products that's promoted by all Bollywood stars is fairness cream, because Indians come in all shades. I'm usually not this fair, but I'm in Arctic temperatures at the moment, minus 35 degrees on a regular basis here, Celsius. And I'm pretty fair skinned right now. But I know in my family, I was the darkest. And Indians come in a lot of shades. Like you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between a black person and an Indian person, even with regards to our curls and the color of our skin in India. So it's very interesting. This is where I connect with the anti-blackness, and I want to explain this. And I'm just as critical of my own community as I am of others. So let's get into this. Gandhi is usually looked at as like this great exalted saint who helped, the untouchable caste, the lowest class in the caste system in India, become more free. But he did so at the same time as upholding the caste system. He didn't say abolish the caste system. He just said, they shouldn't be considered untouchable, but we should still have the caste system. So it's kind of like, when racists are like, yeah, he's racist, but that's just how he is, right? That's our granny. She's like that. So that's that first idea. But then we also have receipts from when Gandhi was a lawyer in South Africa, and when he sided with the white minority in power to impose apartheid, and then make sure that the Indians were seen as civilized compared to the native black people in South Africa, at whom he considered uncivilized, and even pushed for this. So I'll quote things now. Ashwin Desai is a writer who wrote a book about Gandhi, and I'm going to quote what he said, that Gandhi was a racist. If you're really doubting this, this is where racist qualities come from. To the extent that he wrote Africans out of history, or was keen to join with the whites in their subjugation, he was a racist. To the extent that he accepted the white minority power, but was keen to be a junior partner, he was a racist, right? So he knew what apartheid was doing and how it was holding down black people in South Africa, but he wanted to make sure that us Indians were slightly above the black people, which is shitty, any way that you swing it. And they don't teach you this. They didn't show you this in the glamorized version that Ben Kingsley played him in that movie. They also left out a lot of his misogyny and problematic views on women, and we're going to discuss that. But first, before we get into that, he was also an anti-Semite a little bit. He blamed the Hitler. If Hitler killed, and this I'll quote too. Louis Fisher was the interviewer in 1947. So this is after the war ended, World War II. He said Hitler killed 5 million Jews. It's the greatest crime of our times. But the Jews should have offered themselves to the butcher's knife. They should have thrown themselves in the sea from cliffs. It would have aroused the world and the people of Germany. As it is, they succumbed anyway in their millions. So yeah. And then he also thought Mussolini, I won't quote what he said about Mussolini, but he said Mussolini was a great statesman with an iron fist. So, I've been sitting on these things for a long time, and it was very hard for me as a kid. I thought he was a great guy, and then when I was like, what? When I learned all these things in university about him from primary sources, and then all these books come out the older I get that show him as not a perfect person. And we talked about infallibility in other videos. I've talked about it. But this is like a different level of infallibility. Now, all that racism aside, siding with dictators, and, now let's talk about, this is the part that disturbed me the most as a girl, a young woman, the things that he did to girls, including his own grandniece at one point. He would sleep with them naked to test his celibacy, or the Brahmacharya, meaning the celibacy experiments. So he would sleep naked with his own grandniece whose mother had passed away. So she was vulnerable, Manu Gandhi. And he would say, and then another source came out later on, this is the interesting part, to try and dispute this, saying that the teenager, the child, was also trying to learn how to be celibate, sleeping with a naked man. Now, Gandhi was 77 years old at this point, and he was in a position of power over his grandniece. And this man had the nerve to say that she consented to sleeping naked with her almost a grandfather-like figure when she was underage. And, it's beyond questionable. And he also had very, very misogynistic views about his wife. For example, he'd say, "I cannot bear to look at Ba's face. The expression is often like that of the face of a meek cow, and gives one of the feeling that a cow occasionally does, that in her own dumb manner, she is saying something. Um, it's so ridiculous because at one point she died, and again, this is glamorized in the movie. So I've also seen the movie, and I was like, "Oh, he's so great!" After watching the movie as a kid, and then reading about this is just like, what? So when his wife was dying of pneumonia, he refused to give her the alien substance that he called it, of penicillin. But when he was sick with malaria, he took the penicillin. So his misogynistic views of the way he spoke about women and the way he treated women, whether they be the young children or the young girls that he had in his bed. He had pairs of women. He used to say women who used contraceptives were whores. And when he was in South Africa, 2 of his followers complained about men showing them unwanted sexual attention. So he chopped off their hair forcefully, saying that, and he's emphasized this message when he was in India too, that women are responsible for their own sexual assaults. Like, it's entirely the fault of women if they make themselves sexually desirable to men to the point where they become sexually assaulted. And he also, and the reason why I'm so friggin' like, I really need to get this out there, because these ideas still persist today in Indian society and in India and in our cultures, even here in North America. We bring it over. That he said many times that fathers were justified in killing their daughters that had been sexually assaulted in order to preserve the family honor, the honor-killing idea, right? Menstruation was a manifestation of the distortion of a woman's soul by her own sexuality. Like, the fact that we've exalted this man when he really and truly was a pedophile in every sense of the word by today's standards, and people are like, well, why are you holding him to today's standards? Because those standards should have been in place then, and people shouldn't have exalted him. They shouldn't have chose him to be a hero or whatever, because really and truly, if we really want to look at it, we know now from primary sources that because Gandhi didn't want to co-rule in the first place with a Pakistani and Indian Hindu side, like a Hindu and Muslim country, he didn't want it. He pushed for the separation and the displacement of people, even in my family, in generations ago. Thousands of people died in the partition of India because of this person's inability to work with people of another religion. And to this day, we are still separated as a people. We are still look at each other as if we're not the same blood, as if we're not the same people. Because of this stupidity, fathers still kill their children in India and in Pakistan because of the ideas that he put out there too, that he reinforced. And it is insane. They killed their daughters as if all the honor of all the men in India lies in the vaginas of their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, their cousins, their nieces. Why? Why doesn't the pride and honor of men lie in their own crotch? I think that's a good way to end this. But it's a bit of a rant. But it's the truth. I feel this way about Gandhi, and I feel that we as Indians have glazed over it. Indians, Desis, Pakistani people, we've all glazed over it, and we ignore the fact that he was racist, he was a misogynist, he didn't like women except if they were for his own sexual pleasure, and to the point where he left his dying father to go have sex with his wife, and he always regretted it, so that's why he had a celibacy vow. Ugh, he was such a problematic figure in history that I want to put as much knowledge of him out there and spark people to go do the research themselves. Maybe not do all the research, get a couple of books that are non-biased, find primary sources of people talking about what he was like, and there's so much out there. Even on the internet from valid sources, there is so much out there. But I just wish people would stop exalting him, because he's done a disservice to the women of India for generations and generations. And this is a hard video for me to do, only because I know the amount of hate I'm going to get for doing it. But if you like this video, please comment below.
All
if
right.
you can connect with what I'm saying and, having to come face to face and unpack your beliefs with...
I'm going to leave it right there. So there was a reason why I played her first. Because people are going to come and they're going to... Because the next video I'm going to bring is going to be a brother. All right? So sometimes you have to do things in a certain sequence to get a message across. So, yeah, it's a reason why over in India they're doing what they're doing, because, see, we are in the age of exposure. And literally at our fingertips, we can pull up information globally. And people been knew about this, but it's more heightened. And so when I was doing my research, I said, let me hear what she got to say, because I had listened to other people of her race, and they downplayed it. They even downplayed it somewhat in PR. He had these views, and then, he started coming into his all own and all that kind of stuff. I often over here talk about the nature of many things. All right? And he was being true to his nature. He really was. So, now I'm going to play the bonus video. All right? Might as well take this one down.
I opposed the petition because I was already familiar with Gandhi and who he was. And as a matter of fact, I was driving right along this road behind us, and I saw the statue. I said, who is this? And I looked and I saw it's Gandhi. And I said, people must not know who this man is. And I took some photos, and then I sent an email to all staff here at the University of Ghana, along with about 70 of his most racist quotes. Not a few, but like about 77 of his most racist quotes to everyone on campus. Now, the reaction from most people was, we had no idea. We saw the movie. We thought this is a great guy. The movie, which was sponsored by the Indian government as a piece of propaganda, but that's a sidebar. But most people had no idea, much less had they researched and read. Now, the complete works of Mahatma Gandhi, or as we prefer, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, is out there. Everything that he has ever written is all together in, I want to say, 99 volumes thereabout. So you can go through letters that he's written, so forth and so on, and things that he's written in Hindi, in Gujarati. And this is really the issue, that there were so many people who thought he was so great because they can't read Hindi. They can't read Gujarati. If Dr. Martin Luther King could read it, or Nelson Mandela could read it, or Kwame Nkrumah could read it, they would have had a vastly different picture. But now, for us as researchers, I'm a research coordinator at the Institute of African Studies, Language, Literature, and Drama. So I've read about Gandhi, and my first time hearing about it, a historian, Dr. John Henrik Clark, he said that Mahatma Gandhi was a fraud and a faker. I heard this back in the early 90s, like 92 thereabout. I said, wow, I wonder where he's coming from with this. So I started reading about it. I started reading about the plight of the untouchables. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who wrote the book, What Congress and Gandhi Have Done to the Untouchables. So once you know better, you have to do better. And this is really a blow for black dignity, black self-respect, striking out throughout the world.
Many parts of the world hail Mahatma Gandhi. Why Africa should oppose such a figure?
Very good. When we think about it, we have to put it in context in terms of who was Gandhi to us as black people. And when you familiar with the history, you come to find that he was actually a sergeant major in the army fighting against the Zulus, in which thousands and thousands of Zulus were killed. And he was also the one who really instituted what we could call institutional apartheid there in South Africa, because he was the one who clamored to make sure that the Indians could have a different office a different entrance into the post office and to the telegraph office there in Durban, South Africa. That he was someone who was a virulent racist. He agitated to get guns so that they could shoot all of the Kaffir blacks, but because the British didn't regard him as high enough as the British, even though he said that we're all coming from the same Indo-Aryan stock, they didn't give him guns. And we're happy because otherwise he would have been as bad as Colonel Dwyer, who shot down so many Indians. The only difference between Gandhi and Dwyer is that Gandhi just didn't get the opportunity and didn't get the weapons. So anytime we look at anything, we should see it from our perspective, an African-centered perspective, as we do our African studies. So as African people, what did he do for or against African people? And we can look at not only his words, but his deeds in fighting in wars against the black people. When he went back to India, he fought against the Dalits, who are the black untouchables of India. So these are the things that many people are not aware of, but as soon as you become aware of it, you have to do something different. You have to change your behavior.
Some also may have said that this is an academic community and should have known better. But why do you think University of Ghana would in the first place have such a figure erected on campus?
Very good. Now, people did not know better, and people were not consulted in general. So this was something that was done by the higher-ups. We won't say any names, but we know who they are. And they decided to just place a statue because I'm sure that they were under the same impression of most of the world, where if you go to a Martin Luther King memorial, you'll see Gandhi there. If you go to Senegal, you'll see Gandhi. They put these statues, South Africa, they put these statues all over, and it literally depends on ignorance for anyone to accept the statue. Now the people in Malawi heard what we did here, and they have a court injunction where they stopped the statue from being there, because for us as black people, we have to have black dignity, we have to have black self-respect. If you say that, oh, my plate is nothing but a rubbish bin, then the whole world will collect rubbish in it. But when you say my plate is a wonderful plate, then people are willing to eat off of it. So when we don't have respect for ourselves, when the rest of the world, you go to Europe and they are throwing bananas at you when you're playing football, when you go to India and they're beating you down, when you're going to the US, the black person does not have a very high level of respect in the world, but it starts from self-respect. If someone who called you 1 degree removed from an animal, you put him on a campus at a black university, an African university, it means that you must not know very much about yourself. But it's not everyone who's in that position. So those of us who knew, who have read, who studied, we are the ones who agitated. Because imagine if you put, again, Colonel Dwyer was this British man who shot down so many of these Indians in a massacre. Imagine if you put him in a university at New Delhi. Imagine if you put him at a university. It means that you, all the scholars, you must not know anything about your history. It will be a slap in the face. And that's how many of us took it, as a slap in the face, that some of us know better and we don't just go along with the propaganda, or what some of us call impropaganda. It's improper propaganda about Gandhi.
A lot of people also say this might mar the relationship between Ghana and India, especially now that the statue of their former leader has been taken away. Don't you think that would cause some kind of skirmishes between the two countries?
You know, actually, I just answered an email from someone in India, Colonel G.B. Singh, probably the world's foremost scholar on Gandhi. We have been in contact with Arundhati Roy, so many Indians who have been collaborating on this project and really have been part of the force that have helped to publicize it as well. Now, what this means is that you have in India is not as united as you may think, that you have castes, right? So you have the Brahmins, you have the Kshatriyas, you have the Vaishyas, you have the Shudras. So all of these are the castes that are part of Hinduism on the simple scale, because even in that you have subgrouping. So Gandhi himself was Banya, which is a subcaste of the Vaishyas. Now, even outside of that, you have the outcasts, you have the Dalits, you have the untouchables, the black untouchables of India, and these are the ones who are downtrodden. So the people of India, there are so many Indian groups, some who have even done videos that are up online supporting us in this, that there are some who have been downtrodden ever since these Indo-Aryans have been crushing them on the basis of they consider themselves to be white, and they know that the indigenous people there are black. And that's part of why when black students like yourself go there to study, they're beaten to death. A man in Congo was beaten to death in broad daylight in India. Why? Because they treat black Africans the same way they treat their indigenous black people there. You understand? And again, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said that Gandhi was the worst enemy of the untouchable people. So I want you to put these things in perspective. So it's not all of India, it's these upper caste Hindus who have been impressing the black people there in India. So we should not get it marred. So if you have upper caste elites here who are connected to those upper caste white Indo-Aryans, we have to start now questioning these elites. What are you doing, in that relationship with them? because those of us who are on the ground, the people, we're connected to the black people there in India. We have solidarity with the black people there in India.
So finally, is this the end to the hashtag Gandhi Must Fall movement, especially now that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has taken over the statue of this individual we are talking about?
As I mentioned, in Malawi, they're still fighting. And matter of fact, I got an email from someone from Malawi, Nkotama. He says, we will not relent. Congratulations, we will not relent. We will keep the fight. And I said, beautiful. That's all we can expect and all we can hope for. Again, truth has to reign. No matter how popular the lie is, even if a lie takes 1,000 years to go on a journey, in a single day, truth will catch up to it. And that's really what the story of Gandhi is all about. And I'm aware that the government of India has a program through soft power where they're trying to put these statues, they've commissioned this as a government to put these statues of Gandhi all around the world. And we can look at it as their proxy war with China for soft power. If you remember the border dispute that just happened last year, that China is very heavy in Africa because everyone knows, except for Africans, that whosoever controls Africa controls the world. All of the coltan for your phone to work, the blood diamonds, the uranium that powers France, every single thing that you can imagine, whoever controls Africa controls the world. So we have to now look at this. India is the one who built Flagstaff House, which is now again Jubilee House. They said that they would give 200 million to make a new parliament building. So what they're saying is that we bought your president and we bought your parliament. This is what they're trying to tell us. And then I saw Nanado, who was standing there with a check for $1 million to renovate right after this Gandhi situation came in. So we have to now question this. Are we just going to be pawns in a proxy war with China and India? Because everyone is coming here. The U.S. is coming here with a military base. The British, Francophonie, we're hearing all these things. Everyone is rushing to Africa, but many of our youth are rushing across the Sahara Desert to the Mediterranean. What do all these people see that we do not see? What type of education are we getting here if all of our students, our young people, have an unemployed graduate association and can't understand that we have to come together as black people, regardless of location, for black issues of black dignity and black self-respect? So I don't think it's done because I know that they have many more statues there as they're trying to push in soft power, the Kumkum Baja, all of these things that we're seeing, the Confucius Institute from China. Everyone is trying to get a foothold here in Africa. So I don't think it's done.
Not to even say if the ministry wants to erect this particular structure anywhere on the soil of Ghana, it's not necessary?
That's a major concern. So people were asking me, even my colleague, Dr. Apia Jetria, who was at the School of Law, he says, have you heard where it's going? I said, no, I haven't heard, because they did, just the way they brought it under the cover of darkness, they didn't tell anyone that this is going on, a very small thing, the same way. It left this morning and no one knew. I got a call from Radio Universe that says, oh, the thing is gone. Can you tell us your thoughts? I said, you're the one who's informing me. I didn't even know it's gone. So these are the things, if it comes up, this is why I would say a luta continua, because we don't know where Gandhi will rear his ugly head next. He will go all over as part of the soft power face of India.
I'm grateful. But finally, I want to, pick your thoughts on how a security guard was put in here to, guard the statue.
This is an excellent question. Now, on campus, things are not always peaceful. That we've had women who have been attacked on campus. It's not rampant, it's generally a peaceful place, but there were no security guards given to every single woman to protect her. These are real life African women, you understand? But meanwhile, an inanimate object, a statue, has 24/7 security. What does that tell you about what I was saying before about respect? How can anyone in the world respect someone who would do something like that? You don't value your own people, the black people who are, the Africans, continental Africans who are being beaten to death right there in India. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we haven't heard anything from them about that to date. I check the news all the time. I've studied about India. I've read about the untouchables for decades now. You understand? But I haven't heard anything protesting either the plight of the Dalits, the black untouchables there, or about the African students who are getting beaten every single day because they're getting the same treatment that the indigenous black people are getting there. So I would just say in short, if I can be short on this issue, I think it's a travesty. You understand that you have 24/7 security on an inanimate object. Meanwhile, the suffering of our black people there in India, there's no security for those African students who are beaten daily. stabbed to death, a man out of Congo who was beaten to death in broad daylight. We don't hear anything about it. Thank you, too.
All right. That was quite powerful, my royal family. And I wanted to say that this particular video was put up just before coronavirus had hit. And isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that I've been paying attention to some things lately before coronavirus hit, and all the atrocious things that have been happening to the royal family globally. And so that stood out to me in that last phase of that interview, that a lot of these things are not even going on because now they're having to deal with their immediate situation globally. You know, when everything running smooth in these people's world, you know, the full brunt of the attack is on. You know, remember when it, you know, even when it first came out, people in China want to accuse the royal family of being the face of Rona. No, y'all the face of Rona. But anyhow, we going back to Gandhi. So there is a lot of propaganda going on where, you know, these people are not progressive enough, so they want to continue to pillage Akibalan, or unquote, Africa, and want to continue to mind fuck us and put these symbols in place that some of us don't question, assuming that Gandhi was very peace loving. That's why I made a point of having his own and also the enemy speak first, you know, because nobody wouldn't have really listened if I would have put that brother up first and then them last. You know, they would have felt some kind of way. You know, it's important that this information go out like that. And so there's dual things going on. Folks is, you know, taking the statues down, and then there's this other propaganda where we're going to put it back up. So they can so-called try to fulfill that agenda. But that agenda is not being filled, unquote, again. Let's remember the space and time that we are in. Rona about that life on a global scale. Okay? And remember, this is all about us reclaiming and regaining our throne. The deeper I got into my research of Gandhi, I got more and more disgusted. I mean, this dude had some heavy mental health issues. I mean, he pretty much self-inflicted as he got older, even though he was assassinated, his because of his diet was so poor that it greatly affected his health, that he was constantly constipated. There was all kind of stuff going on. But the reason why those type of things happen, that in my belief system, is because you know, you're being phony, you're a fraud. So it's affecting your immediate situation. When I was, you know, reading into how he was always constantly sick and all that kind of stuff, and then, you know, then he walks around in a damn diaper. To me, that's a form of arrogance. I'm not saying that you got to dress in such a way to appease society, but you develop this type of arrogance where you know, that's how I look at him, wearing a damn diaper and wrapped up in a sheet. What does that mean? You're so peace loving, you know, and your wife is basically letting the world know that it's three in this marriage. Yes, he was, you know, an unquote gay man. And then they were saying that he was celibate. Well, he was still sleeping with men. And all of it's wrong. And I have said this a long time ago, because I have spoke on the gay community being bullies, and they will champion people who have unquote came out, have been in a long-term marriage with children involved, and then they decide, well, I'm unquote gay. Okay, let's leave the gay out of it and everything. Okay, you just affected somebody's marriage. That's wrong, period. Let's look at it like that. Say it was a heterosexual male or female. Well, that gay person would be saying, that's wrong to break up that family like that. Well, it's wrong on that level too as well. So you ain't gonna come over here and punk me, because I keep that shit real raw. That's breaking up families and stuff. And I am glad that this stuff is being exposed. You know, this is necessary. This is what I love about being in the age of exposure. So there are statues coming down on a global scale. You know, Mussolini, all kind of folks. And I even found out that he referred to Hitler as my friend. He wrote him a couple of letters and everything. And like I said, I started researching this stuff and I was like, damn, ooh wee, I'm feeling some kind of way. This dude is something else. Really. I know my scholars over here will be teaching me and enlightening me, because I know y'all know many, many things. So I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it on the True Royal Family, and also on True Royal, where y'all will educate me too as well. Because like I said, when I first came here, I said I come here to learn. I wholeheartedly come here to learn. I come here humble. You know, I'm always going to be full tilt, ready for war. But you know what you need to do? You need to render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And it's always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.